All right. Starting to run out of time here, Doug. The fourth, well, I guess one other value-add question. I think liberals are naturally optimistic. Because we fight for gradual but steady improvements in human societies through time, okay, we're used to the occasional setback. So I think that's another sort of value that we should hold internally. The future is ours. Liberals, that great society that conservatives are so proud of, that they want to hold on to, was largely created by liberals over the years. We should be proud of our accomplishments. We should be confident that our ideas will be adopted in society in the long run. We should never give up. And then to finish off, the fourth thing I wanted to say, just really briefly, a lot of people think that the challenge of being a liberal in Alberta is that we're surrounded by conservatives. And I think that's wrong. The challenge of being a liberal in Alberta is that we're surrounded by other liberals. We just don't realize it yet. I'm going to continue, then you have to clap again. Because the sorts of values that I've been speaking to are values that are widely shared out there. Okay? The sorts of values and the sorts of policies that can be tied to them, there is a lot of people. I mean, my frustration in the last campaign was having these 10-minute conversations on the doors where I'd agree with people completely about everything. Everything we said, we were on the same wavelength. We really connected. And then they'd say, but I could never vote for the Liberal Party. Those people we can reach. There is a message, a combination of values and policies where they will say, that's me. I just didn't realize it before. Gee, I've been a liberal my whole life. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. I just wonder if you've got a few minutes to take a couple of questions.
A couple. And I do apologize for eating, speaking, and running away. I have to teach it too.
Your comment that you're surrounded by the blue meanies is really taken to heart. Why do you think that is? I think there are two main reasons. One is this old idea of the national energy policy being our fault. And it's long dead, it's a dinosaur. And two, that the conservatives are the party of business. Well, I'm a businessman, I'm a liberal, and that's absolutely untrue. I think we have to get that message across.
Yeah, the historical roots of it. I mean, there's academics who try to figure out why Alberta ended up with such a different politics from the rest of the country. I mean, I think part of it is that we do tend to make a lot of decisions based on what other people around us are, and you kind of get a certain, once you reach a certain tipping point, and if everyone you run into says they're a conservative, then you think there's something wrong about not being a conservative. So and that again should give us hope that if there's a tipping point in one direction, we can tip it back. That at some point, once you get enough liberals out there, then people start thinking, well, it's not such a weird thing to be a liberal. But again, I think the big thing is that what's happened through the years is that people have created this image of what a liberal is that has a whole bunch of negative parts to it. And that if we just talk about policies, we don't really chip away at that negative frame. Well, Senator Grant Mitchell really likes this political psychologist who writes books in the United States talking about U.S. politics, where he talks about framing, about how people frame issues, and how what the Republicans were able to do over a period of decades is, get people to think of Democrats as people who didn't like the family. And in every Democrat policy, you think, well, how's that going to hurt my family? And that's the sort of thing I'm trying to get at here, that we have to change people's basic perception of what liberals are about. Because if they think that we just throw money at problems, especially at problems in Ontario, then they're never going to want to trust us or pay taxes to us.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Way in the back.
What is the policy of the federal Liberal Party on the tar sands continuation of development?
Well, one of the challenges, one of the things we're seeing in reference to my last, some liberals are drawing the lesson from the last election that we came out too early with a detailed policy platform, and so this time around we're going to come out much later with a detailed policy platform. What Michael Ignatieff has clearly said is he wants a sustainable oil sands. So he distinguishes himself from the New Democrats who are saying shut it, who seem to have officially said shut it down, and others who think, oh, let's just carry on to try to see if there's ways to have oil sands production that can be done in a much more environmentally friendly fashion. So I don't have more details than that, but that's the kind of the broad.
Follow-up
Sure.
question. That makes Michael Ignatieff with the right of Wahi.
Well, you know, maybe again, I think, you know, this whole right-left distinction. Maybe I'm one of those people who thinks that whole right-left distinction is meaning less and less as we go through. I think we have a very complicated policy agenda before us, and sometimes we find parties taking positions that you might think are unusual. But I think, again, you know, what I would suggest is, you know, we should be looking at the oil sands and trying to figure out what are the consequences we want. Well, we want a healthy economy and we want a healthy environment. Is there some way that we can, in the oil sands, achieve both? Have jobs, create some wealth, and yet not completely trash the environment there or elsewhere? I don't have trouble with that broad outlook. We'll see what the details are.
My concern is that I find Alberta has not defined itself how it fits in the national scene. We seem to look after Alberta as a separate entity. And I think the Liberal Party tendency is to say, how do we fit in with the rest?
Well, I think if you look back, and you mentioned Lougheed, I mean, I think not that many decades ago, the people of Alberta were quite happy to take some of their oil wealth and make loans to Newfoundland at below interest rates, below market interest rates. So I think Alberta perhaps has become more selfish over the last couple of decades in outlook than it had been because of a feeling, partly due to the national energy policy, that other people were out to get us and therefore we had to defend ourselves. I think the Albertans I talk to are very proud Canadians, so I think that message of seeing Alberta as an important part of Canada, and that's again why Michael wants to send out this message about the oil sands, that they're an important thing not just for Alberta but for the whole country. I think again, one of the messages we need to get out here in Alberta is that the Liberal Party, for a bunch of reasons, really does want not just to elect people from Alberta, but then to listen to people from Alberta. That the Liberal Party thinks that a national vision is the best combination of provincial, the visions from different parts of the country. And I'm hearing it so often. Every MP that comes here says, gee, Rick, we need to get some people elected so that when we're in government, we have people in caucus and cabinet who can tell us what policies will work for Alberta. The Liberal Party really wants that, and we need to get that message out, that anyone we elect in Alberta is going to be really influential because we have a bunch of Liberals from other parts of the country who really want to hear from us. There's also, of course, a more pragmatic reason that the Liberal Party, as long as the Bloc is picking up 50 seats in Quebec, the Liberal Party is not going to get a majority without doing a lot better in Western Canada than it's done in a while, so the good reason is supported by a pragmatic reason that they need seats here. But I think that's another sort of thing. People, since the national energy policy, have this vision of the Liberal Party as something that's based in Ontario, and we need to get that message to them as the Liberal Party can and will listen to Alberta.